Hi everyone, my name is Rourke. I'm a digital artist and graphic designer. I've had a couple people ask me what my workflow is like when I'm working on digital art, and so I've put together this video to kind of show you my whole process and flow from starting from a blank canvas to how I go through sketching, inking, and coloring, and a couple of other fun little tricks and tips I've picked up along the way. I hope you enjoy. All right, so a couple people have asked me to show them what my art process is. So I'm going to try to do this interstitially while I'm working on it, holding the camera with one hand and drawing with the other. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a couple different layers here. I like to start with about 4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fill all these layers in with white. You can see that layer is there. Good, next one. And the reason why I do this is because some of the tools in Procreate act differently when you've already got paint on the canvas. And this is just the way I work. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I just like the way that things interact better. I've always been kind of like that person who would put a layer of white on their canvas when they're painting before they start. This is kind of the same idea. The medium's going to interact a little bit differently than it might otherwise. I'm also going to make all of these multiply just because I want to see all of the layers. And you'll see why we're doing this in a minute. Okay, now when I start a sketch, I'm always going to start on layer 3. Again, this is just the way I do it. I'm going to use layer 3 for the head, layer 2 for the body, layer 1 for the limbs, and then layer 4 for sketching in other things. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on layer 3, and I'm just going to start creating a shape here. So now we've got kind of a head shape here. You can see I've expanded it out a bit. River's kind of got a wider face than I initially had started planning, but that's okay. So you can kind of see where the original lines were, and I've kind of just expanded outward until I have kind of the shape that I want. This is just going to be a very rough sketch here. We're just trying to get the form. These sketches are important to me because it helps me see better before I start defining details. These are called gesture sketches in art. We're really just trying to get the gesture here. So I am going to go into my layer 2 now, and I'm going to start working on getting some shapes for the body. Okay, you can see kind of where I've picked up these shapes that I was just drawing here, created a little bit more form around them, given River a bit of a belly because that's just how I roll. And so you can see that this is on a separate sketch layer than the head, because if I want to just be able to see just the body, I can pull it away. And so now you can see I can kind of see this form, and this is going to help me when I'm doing the limbs, because I want to pull the limb, or I want to pull the main body back to, I usually don't do this until we get to the limbs. And then I want to get into layer 1. And eventually all of these layers are going to be merged together just because I won't need them eventually, but I still want to keep them because sometimes I do like having that under layer there. But we're going to start we're going to do the same thing with the arms. We're going to start working on adding these shapes for the arms. So you can see I've added just some very rudimentary shapes here. We've got kind of the upper arm, lower arm, hands. I've got some thick thighs because they're bunny. And this is why I kind of gray out the other portions of the sketch, so that I can sort of, when I'm lining this in and when I want to focus on different parts, I can adjust that opacity. So now I'm going to do the same for this. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reduce this, and then I'm going to add in the all of the like accessories and their ears and the box that they're holding. You can see I've done that here. Again, this is not meant to be high art. This is just a guideline for figuring out where you want your lines to go. And this is just my process. This is how I work. I work with the gesture sketch first, and then I kind of use that as a base. I know this doesn't look realistic. That's not what we're going for here right now. I've added River's ears and glasses in because I kind of consider them separate from the head, partially because I learned figure drawing with humans first, and so like long ears, tail, yes, they're going to be integrated into the form itself, but they count as accessories. And then the box here. So I've just penciled in a box. Love it. Great. Fantastic. All right. Now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to reduce this form, create another layer, and I'm going to approach my inking, or not my inking, I guess it's kind of inking, but really what we're doing is we're going to be doing another sketch layer, but we're going to be defining these forms. So it is kind of like inking in a way. My brain kind of thinks about it as inking, because what we're doing is we're taking these sketch lines and we're going to just create a very rough sketch. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to form us. I'm going to do this 3 or 4 different times. Probably, depending on how I like things as they develop. I'm going to take the same exact approach to creating these layers as I do with the gesture sketch, but I'm not necessarily going to divide it up by limbs. What I'll do is I will work on a part. If something overlaps, I might pull it into a different canvas, work on that, and then reintegrate it. All right, so what you can see here is I've really just created this very rough line layer based on the gesture sketches that I have created. So you can see like the ears. Move this over so maybe you can see better. So you can see no, that's the wrong layer. Where the ears and the glasses come from, the gift. Sort of see, I want the next one. Thank you. Come on. You can see where the head shape comes from. You can see this messy hair here is informed into the sketch layer. You can see how this form follows the gesture drawing that I did. I've kind of moved their chest a little lower as I'm adding in anatomy. Again, because this is just a gesture sketch, right? We just want the suggestion and just the beginning of the form, something we can work off of. I've done the same with their limbs. You can kind of see here. So you can see where in the gesture sketch there's no definition of fingers. I've really left it up to this this first rough sketch to really figure out what I want these hand shapes to look like. And you can see they're not even defined either. None of this is really defined. This is just taking that sort of lump of clay that we've created with our gesture sketches, and really just given it some sort of form. You can see that the lines are still very rough. I'm going to go back and do another sketch layer. This is actually layer 6. So this is, I kind of worked back and forth between 2 layers while I was working on this. So I'm going to try and define these layers a little bit more and show you kind of what the next step is. All right, so I've really kind of worked better, or harder, I guess, to define what some of these layers look like, these sketch lines look like. You can kind of see, like, I've gone ahead and really tried to define where these contours are in this piece. I've also got the opacity in such a way that you can see where the old sketch lines are. You can see where the current sketch lines are. These will probably be very close to where my ink lines end up. And then you can see the under sketch underneath. You can kind of see like all these scribbles here. I think there are times where I will take this and maybe refine it one more time. I think this is good enough to start inking. I'm not in love with it, but also I also want to spend a lot of time on this. It is Christmas Eve. I do want to get this out for this evening. So I'm going to move on to my inking, and then I'll figure it out. Sometimes what I'll do is when I'm inking, I will like put in a line, I'll make it thicker than I need to, and like kind of carve it out. I might show you what that looks like in the next stage here, if I remember. But this is like, I'm already happy with where we are with this sketch. Now, it's at this point that I will decide whether I want this to be like a finished piece, one of the sketch pieces that I do sometimes where like you can see the sketch lines and stuff like that. And so I've sort of already laid out what I want to do with this piece. But with a lot of my art, I really don't know, right? So sometimes I might go straight to coloring at this point and then do the inking afterwards. In this case, I'm going to ink next, because I think that like it'll be easier to see where those ink lines come from in this sketch. But know that this part of the process from here on out is all malleable. It really depends on what I'm going for. But we're gonna get some ink on the page. These probably won't be the final inks, but I want to show you what they look like, and sort of how they relate to this line art, before I add some color, because it'll be harder to see when the color is there. But then I'm going to show you kind of what I'd like to do with the color, and some of the techniques I use to get different versions of, like, there's a couple different types of finishing that I like to do, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's see where we are in terms of inking and go from there. All right, so here is the ink layers. You can really see how the ink changes. I'm not done with this. Some of this is still rough. Again, I just wanted to get this done so that you guys could see what this, what this does. Or how it looks, rather. You pull you can see where the lines are. They all didn't quite stay where they were before. I do like this, the last sketch layer that I did, so that's probably going to stay in the final. I've really pulled down the opacity of these previous sketch layers here. You can also see that I actually have a separate sketch layer for the glasses, because I'm not sure if I want to make them fully dark the way that I've got them here. But yeah, so there's nothing that says that you can't go back and refine your layers, and that's what I generally do. Is as I work through different layers, the layers I want to keep, I will go back and refine. I think this is ready for color. There's a couple of things I want to show you that I like to do with color that are interesting. And then I'll go back to trying to figure out what I want to do with this piece. All right, what I've done is I've put in some very basic color here on this piece. I'm going to go back and refine what the shadows are. I add some highlights, but these are just the base colors. And the reason why I'm stopping here for the moment is because I really want to show you a couple of different fun things you can do with color that I've used in previous pieces. The first thing I like to do is I like to create because I use multiply layers, I like to create kind of a safe background mask that I can use to add backgrounds in. And so now that this whole piece is flat colored, again, we're going to go back and shade. We're going to go back and add highlights. But one thing that I like to do is, because I have this flat layer now, I can actually use it as a layer to select a new to mask it out, basically. So I'm going to turn off color fill because I don't want it to be full. Got on automatic here. And I'm going to touch all the spaces that I want my background to show up in. You can see where it's sort of color where the edge of my coloring is when you do this. No, this isn't a perfect method. You can see that there's some here. I can change the selection threshold to increase or decrease what it grabs. I can sort of like might be able to just grab those edges. What I will do normally is I will just grab, this is good enough. The ink layer is going to cover a lot of that. These little gaps here, I can add them in manually. All that matters really for me right now is that I want this mostly selected. I'm going to click on that, the little arrow button, and it seems to like select everything, but it doesn't like look like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go back and then do the back button. And now you can actually see that I've masked out all the places that I've colored. Again, these are multiply layers, so I don't want the background to show up behind them. And yes, there might be a better way to do it. This is just the way I do it. Because it works, it's easy. I'm going to go down to the very bottom layer. I'm going to add a layer here. I'm going to put it behind my sketch layer because that's important. I'm going to take any color. I'm probably going to pick a color that I'll use or something similar to one I want to use. And I'm just going to take, go into basics. If you're looking for just the airbrushes, basics is now more or less where airbrushing is in Procreate. I've complained many times that I couldn't find the old tools in the Procreate library. They're hidden. You can go back to libraries, and then you can go into your legacy libraries. I just want something that's gonna flat color everything. So we're gonna bring the opacity up. We're gonna really increase this and just go. The noises are important. There's our layer mask. And I'm going to click this. It's going to remove the selection. I'm going to continue to accidentally move the layer back, but I can easily fix that with the undo button. In theory, there we go. I'm going to click this arrow twice to clear out my selection. So now I have a layer mask, and this is important. I can go back and clean up some of these gaps with that same tool. Lovely view of the couch there. I apologize. I'm going to use my pen here. This is not always easy to do while I'm holding the camera with one hand. But because I've gone ahead and used my paint layer, my color layer, as the selection, there are going to be these little gaps you have to kind of fill in. And you're going to use the same color as you used your fill layer. All of that looks pretty good. And this is generally why I like to ink first. I don't always, again, but I can see that there are gaps in the color here. I'm going to go and fix that later when I go ahead and do my detail layer. What I really am looking for right now is, and it doesn't matter, I'm just going over them. I just need to make sure that I get these gaps, the ones where the paint layer comes over the ink, color layer goes over the ink. And again, you can kind of play around with threshold settings, but this is the quickest way that I've learned how to do this, because it's easy. And if you choose a color like blue, like a dark blue, and it really doesn't matter what color you choose, because I'll show you in a minute why the color really doesn't matter. But I pick a dark blue or some other dark color because it allows me to see where these gaps are in the background versus the line art. And this will matter in a couple minutes. Yeah, I did a really poor job of coloring this mistletoe in. Rough colors. I'm also doing about as good a job. I did about as good a job coloring this mistletoe as I am holding the camera, so you can see what I'm doing with the iPad. So apologies for that. But that looks pretty good. It's important that you get all of the gaps during this stage, because this is going to work as our mask layer. So I'm actually going to hide this layer. But before I do that, I'm going to say select. So now it's selected only just the places that we've masked out with the blue, which is great. And you can see that the lines are there. It means we're selected. I'll hide this layer. I'm going to create a new layer. Figure out where the button is. And now I have this clean layer that I can just add whatever I want to. So let's add, I mean, this is not how I'm going to finish the piece, but I just want to show you guys because it's pretty cool. So I can add like a sparkle layer. You can see that it's not gonna affect the colors that we have down. This is where I like the new Procreate quite a bit, because you can have all of these like cool different background layers, if that's your idea of a fun time. In the piece that I just did with Pepper, I used, where is it? Let me see if I can find it. Still trying to remember where half these new layers, these new brushes are. I think it was actually in the old library. We can go in the classic library. I did use this for their dress, kind of give it a little bit more of a thing. Luminance, that's what I'm looking for. Bokeh lights. All right. So you can actually add like, I'm going to hide this layer for a minute, just because it's fun. So you can add like, oh, see, look, I lost my selection layer, but that's okay, because all I have to do is click on this. Come on, thank you. Say select. Go into the layer I want, and now see, look, this is the importance of why having a mask layer for your background when you're using multiply in your piece is so important. Because, and that's why I want to keep this layer clean. Because if I ever lose it, you don't have to like do the process all over again. You can actually go ahead and just copy that layer over. But I use this, oh, what am I doing? I use this effect in one of my other previous pieces. It was fun. But you can do all sorts of things with the brushes here. And I'm sure like this one's fun. I love Pulse because it's just big rainbow guys. Just use this in a different piece. There we go. That's so I can sort of like create different lights, and that's fun. I actually might end up using this effect in my in the final here because I actually like those lights. But this is why it's important to have that layer. So I'm gonna just mask out all of these for now, because I want to show you guys something else as well. Let me clear my selection layer. I know, thank you. Sure. Here we go. So what I like to do sometimes is I will increase my sketch layers. I'll probably do that with the inner layer in a minute here. But I will copy out this flats layer. You can see it's underneath the ink layer. And I am actually going to make this, change this to color. So I'm going to put this color layer underneath, over my sketch layers, but under my inks. I'm going to decrease the multiplication layer. You can see that the color layer now acts as a way to color these sketch lines. You've seen that I've done this in a couple of my pieces. I did these for like the Cliffmore Keep profiles. I really love this effect. This is one of my favorite effects to use. And then I can go back and like add more color to this, add a little bit more shading. But this is a really simple, effective way to, like, if you really like to use your sketch lines in your pieces, but you want them to, you know, you want to add a little bit of color. This is something that I really enjoy doing a lot in a lot of my pieces. And this is why having that flat color layer is so important. to me, for instance, because like if I just don't want to render the full piece, I'll just do this and call it a day. Maybe make a couple of quick tweaks. So what I'll do sometimes is I will like, I will take the multiply layer, I'll play around with like the opacity, so you can see that it's still, this is a very different feeling even from just a moment ago, where you've got some of these colors a little bit more defined. And that's mostly my process. From here on out, I am just going to render that color layer until infinity. I'm going to use highlights and shadows. Yeah, I'm going to not be able to like show you guys what I'm doing there while I'm working, just because it's already hard to work one-handed. So you'll just have to see where I end up with the finished piece. But thank you for tuning into my my brief tutorial. And hopefully you like where this ends up. Thanks, guys.